All right, so I knew when Will reached out to me a couple months back and asked me to present here, I knew it was going to be a little tough for me. I knew that my family and I, we spend half the year in San Diego, and I spend the rest of my time in Indianapolis. And this conference just happened to fall on the week that I was moving my family back to Indianapolis. So I was like, man, it's very few and far between when you get 150 people in a room that are all rowing in the same direction and have a common goal of building a very particular type of business. So I knew I couldn't miss it, so we made it happen. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being here, and I'm really appreciative of your time. I know that time is the only resource that we can't get more of, and so I will do my best to give you the best return on investment for that time over the next, how much ever time I have, 45 minutes or so. If you guys are not currently growing your re-roof business with service and maintenance, and vice versa, growing your service and maintenance business with re-roof, I think that you are leaving a ton of money on the table, and to put a value on that, definitely thousands, and at scale probably millions of dollars. And so the most profitable roofing companies that I've had the pleasure of working with across the entire country over the last 3 or 4 years are not just selling re-roofs. They're also not just chasing insurance claims. They're not playing the bid to the bottom game. And to define that for you guys, they're not, doing public bid work, right? They're not, throwing their hat in the ring with 30 other roofing companies, hoping and praying that they get a job. They're also not dealing with long, exhaustive sales cycles that cause the highs and lows, the revenue roller coasters in the business. They're looking at the products and services that they sell as a product with a life cycle. And so they are understanding that, like you and me, there's a point in time when that roof is brand new, and there is a time when that roof needs to be replaced, and there's a lot of time in between. And they're figuring out how to leverage that life cycle to monetize every single opportunity that every single roof that they walk with those different channels. And I'll share these slides with you guys today, so feel free to take pictures, but I'll also give you these. So today, my plan is to essentially break down exactly how you guys can take this concept and literally double the amount of profit. You guys are all selling roofs, right? Everyone here sells roofs? Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, so my goal today is that you guys all have clients, you sell roofs, and the idea is that I want you guys to be able to double the amount of profit or triple the amount of profit that you guys get from every repair, every restoration, and every replacement project that you do this year. And so before I kick the can down the road too far, I know a lot of you guys in this room. I work with a lot of you guys in this room, but there's probably half, if not more, of you guys that have never heard of me. And so 15 years ago, this was me when I finished Hell Week. And shortly after that, a few years after that, I built a company called Jag Roofing and Sheet Metal out of the Indianapolis market. And in 2021, I exited to private equity in a 19-company roll-up. I was company number 17 in a 19-company roll-up in a nationwide acquisition strategy. Acquired, went down to Texas, took over the Texas location, and built a location in Austin, Texas of 70 employees and a sales team of 26 people. And in 2023, I was recognized as the commercial roofing industry's young gun by Roofing Contractor magazine. So along that journey, I don't say any of that to be like, hey, I'm Mr. Cool Guy, but I just share that with you guys so you understand I have some context to this type of business. And along that journey, here's what I learned something basically that most roofing companies or roofing company owners and people in this industry never do. And that's that if you make money doing roof replacements or make money from doing roofing, that service and maintenance is truly the rocket fuel to just do more of that. So if you guys are ready to rock and roll, we'll jump right into things. I've got 2 things for you today. All right, number 1, Will asked me to break down the 3 reasons why I think that service and maintenance actually works and why it fundamentally grows the business. And then I'm just going to share 3 short tips with you guys on how you can rock and roll into this. So can I get a pulse on the room real quick? Who here is already doing service and maintenance and has active service agreements? Okay, sick. And who here is actively working on getting a service department up and going? Okay, cool. We're split like 70-30. So this will be great. Like I said, I've got 3 reasons that this fundamentally works to grow a roofing company. And I've broken it down into core principles to hopefully deliver the most simplified version that you guys have understood so that you can understand exactly why you should do this now. And so the way I look at business is that there's 2 ways that you can grow a business. Number one, you can get more customers, duh, or you can get more money from every customer, all right? And 99% of roofing companies focus on the first one. They're on the constant hamster wheel of chasing new clients, right? We get a job, we do the job, and then it's like, where are we getting our next one from? They reset the scoreboard every year on January 1st to 0. Who here has an aggressive growth strategy for this year, or an aggressive growth plan for this year? Like you plan on maybe doubling or tripling your business? Anyone? And who here plans on getting a new, those of you guys, keep your hand raised if you would for a moment. So if you plan on growing your business, do you plan on, leave your hand in the air if you plan on doing that by getting new clients? All right, so this is you guys. I'm going to describe you guys. You can put your hands down. All right, so what that actually looks like on paper, and this blew my mind the first time I built this. Fundamentally, or actually literally, what this looks like on paper is that if you sold an arbitrary number, so some of you guys may have sold 10 times this amount, but let's just use these numbers for round numbers and ease of conversation. If you sold 100 contracts last year, be it repairs, restorations, replacements, whatever that may be for you guys, that to double your business, you literally have to sell double that this year. So you'd have to sell 200 in 2025. And if you want to double again next year, it's 400 and so on and so forth. I think you guys get the idea, right? Number one, in order to do this, you are forced to become world-class or become very, very good at marketing and sales, because you have to have the opportunities, for anything else in the process to happen. But what most people don't realize is that to double, you also have to double the other functions of the business, the production, the operations, as well as the marketing and sales. And in order to do that, you've got to have the cash, you've got to have the people, you've got to have the resources, and you've got to have the systems. But most people don't think about that. They're just like, yeah, we're going to double our business this year, right? Because it sounds good. This is what I call a soul sucker. And that's, like I said, the way that most people are operating. And so, like I said earlier, there's two ways to grow a business. And the best companies, and I'm not even talking like the best roofing companies, but like if you just look at any big brands in the world, they grow by keeping their clients around longer, right? From getting more money from every customer. And so if we want to utilize the same 100 contracts from last year, the same arbitrary number that I shared with you guys just a couple slides back, this looks slightly different in a compounding business model, right? So if we think of the 100 to 200 to 400 to 800 as a transactional model, as in you're doing a transaction and moving on to the next transaction, and we look at this as a compounding model, this is what it looks like. So in 2024, if you sold 100 contracts and you put all of those repairs, restorations, replacements under a service agreement, and we thought about our business that all roads lead to a service agreement so that we could keep those people around for either recurring revenue or reoccurring opportunities, then we roll into the next year. If you look at the left side of the screen, it says in 2025, if you look at 2024, it starts with 0 customers. 2025 starts with 100 customers. Well, we sell another 100 contracts in 2025, and then look what we start 2026 with. And so over time, this business compounds where we run the same play year over year, and the marketing, the sales, the production, the operations can grow at a steady rate where you're not pulling your hair out and you're not stressed and giving up your personal life to build this roofing company so you could build at a manageable rate, and 10 years down the road, you still end up with a business that has 10x or more because of the organic growth that's going to happen as well. Does that make sense to you guys? The transactional versus compounding? Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to talk about is has anyone heard the term TAM before? Total available market? Okay, a few of you guys. So we're going to talk about, I'll define that here in just a moment, but I want to talk about the total available market, because we all, depending on if you live in DFW or you live in a small podunk town in Indiana like me, there's a limited amount of roofs that are available to you in your market. Okay, so that would be your total available market. And then I'm going to talk to you about profit. So if we think about the life cycle of a roof, there's a lot of different systems, there's a lot of different installation methods, but on average, I think it's a fair statement to say that a commercial roof lasts about 25 years, give or take a few years. And if that is true, then it would also be true that if all roofs were replaced at that rate, so over the course of 25 years, all roofs are going to be replaced, then that also means that, divided up amongst the 25 years, that about 4% of your market needs roof replacements each year. Everyone following that math? The reason is because, well, I spoiled it for you guys, it's the life cycle, but the membrane or whatever the roof system may be might actually last 25 years. The manufacturers believe that it will. But your sealants and your flashings and your penetrations and your termination details will not last 25 years. And I think about this like a vehicle. If I went and bought a new vehicle for my family today, I'm going to buy it off the lot and I'm going to expect that thing to probably last at least 10, 15, hopefully maybe 20 years. But I know it's not going to last 20 years without changing the tires, changing the tires or rotating the tires, swapping the wiper blades, changing the oil and doing those things. And the roof is obviously no different. So with service, you are able to take what I shared with you guys earlier, that being your market. So we've got let's just say that is a representation of 100% of your market. 4% being able to be replaced, and you're able to create a blue ocean. So you're able to take every roof that you walk that is qualified for yourselves. So that is subjective, right? If you walk a roof, it may be a good opportunity for you, but your roofing company may pass on it for whatever reason, whatever your credentials are. And so for every qualified roof that you guys walk, you're able to take it off the street. You're able to turn it into revenue either now or later because you lock it down with a service agreement. And that guy had like a weird Asian fishing hat on, and I was like, this is Texas. We will not stand for that. So side note, I put this in here literally just this morning as a side note because I wanted to talk about the profit side. We were talking about some numbers, profitability, breaking down some of my old jobs, looking at some of his old jobs. And so what we decided is what we learned was that not only is the available market for service work 24 times the opportunity for re-roofs, right? That's going from the 4% to the 96%, but the profit breakdown is pretty crazy. These numbers, I'm just gonna use these for round numbers. So for re-roofs, if we look at the average margin of a re-roof, we'll call it 30%. All right, these are gross margins. Repairs, 65%, and maintenance, about 80%. Now, some of you guys are looking at this and you're like, hey, you got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. But we're using them as an example, all right? And so what we saw was that the gentleman I'm speaking of is Brian. He's like, hey, over the 12 years of running my service department, he's like, every dollar that I did in service work, we pretty much saw a return in about $4 of re-roof work for every dollar that we did. And I was like, that's interesting. Let me go into all of our clients' data. Let me go look at our numbers. And ours was pretty damn close. It was $1 in service work was about $3.40 for us, for all of our clients that were reporting numbers. So that's really close. So if you guys want to look at your company and kind of compare where should I be or where could I be, if you look at it as a ratio there, then that's a really good starting point. But here's where this conversation went. We said, okay, so in a $5 million company, if we're looking at it as $4 million in re-roof work and $1 million in service and maintenance, you'll find a nice surprise from the service department. So despite service being just 1/4 or a quarter of the work, right? Technically 20% of the total work, but 1/4 of the re-roof work, it actually accounts for more than half of the profit that you would get from the re-roof. So way less as far as the revenue goes, but the profitability is, like I said, almost doubled its worth in revenues. So I read a book. But is anyone here familiar with Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett? You guys know who that is? Okay. So I read a book, and as I was reading the book, I had an epiphany. I'm like, whoa, they're talking about something called scale economics. And I'm like, this is literally what service does for roofing companies. I'm going to share with you guys the most profitable reason that service and maintenance actually works and crushes any opposing model. And so I'm going to break this down with some simple numbers. So we're going to break this down as a $20,000 project. For some of you guys, that might look like a re-roof if you're in the residential world. For others, it's like that might be a repair, and it's kind of irrelevant. We're just going to talk about the numbers for a moment. So $20,000 roofing project, whether it's replacement, repair, whatever it is for you guys, like I said, it doesn't matter. If your gross margin on that $20,000 is 40%, but what if on top of that, you could also lock that client into a $2,000 a year agreement, and that's on the low end of what we see, where you aim for 80% profit margin. Now, over the next 10 years, that client is actually worth an additional $16,000 in gross profit. So question for you guys. Is there anyone here that plans on being in business next year? Great. What about, is there anyone here that plans on being in business in the next 5 years? I would hope to see all of your hands still up. Over the next 10 years, if you plan on being in business, then why would you not want to keep this client around and make them worth almost triple, well, no, it would be triple what they would be to you in comparison to if you did not sign them to a service agreement. So additional $16,000 in gross profit, and that is not even including any additional scopes of work that are gonna come from that, right? So when you're on that roof every year, there are things, there's a life cycle that happens, there's storms that happen, there's other things that happen to these roofs that are going to cause additional scopes of work to be necessary or to need to happen on that. So suddenly, like I said, that customer is worth triple what they were before, and this changes everything. So this was the epiphany that I had right here. So when your client is worth 3 times more to you than it is to your neighboring competitor down the road, you gain a massive unfair advantage. And you can spend, if I know that I'm going to make $24,000 off of you as a customer, but if he gets you as a customer, you're only worth $8,000, I know that I have an unfair advantage because I can now spend more money to acquire you as a customer. So I can outmarket, roofer B. I can out-advertise them and I can outgrow them. And so, like I said, this is what Uncle Warren Buffett says is scale economics, okay? From the book, it says that when you make more per client, you can aggressively reinvest into growth while your competitors are stuck playing defense. They can't afford to market at scale, right? If I can pay, if it costs you $2,000 to get a customer and I could pay $6,000 to acquire a customer, that means that I can spend I can outmarket you all day long. Actually, I was going to say, if you don't understand how crazy this model is, like you're either insane or you just love the torture of chasing the next job on the hamster wheel. So I just want to share 3 quick things with you guys, and it's how to implement a proactive service model. I've got 2 tiered service offerings, so I'm going to show you how I shape service models. There's some clients that are going to be cool with proactively paying a recurring fee each year, and there's going to be some property managers, there's going to be some building owners, there's going to be some outfits that do not. All right, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to get on roofs, and then I'll share my sales process with you guys. As a reminder, there are some roofs that are brand new. There are other roofs that need replaced, and there's a bunch in the middle. I use a 2-tiered service model to take advantage of every single one of those. Tier 1 is what we call a preventative maintenance agreement. Tier 2 is what we call a master service agreement. A preventative maintenance agreement is what I would consider proactive. So if we had a building owner and he agreed to that $2,000 a year for us to come out and do the normal, up to 10 patches, 150 linear feet of sealant, cleaning the drains, cleaning off the debris, making sure the gutters are clear, whatever, that's what this is, okay? Alternatively, when we're dealing more specifically in the multifamily realm, I find it really tough to get property managers to commit to, this isn't 100% of the time, but a lot of time, to commit to that recurring revenue. If you think about, to paying us the recurring revenue, if you think about the dynamic of a multifamily property, it's typically a syndication of investors that are looking to squeeze every penny out of that thing, especially now that there's everyone's buying everything up. Private equity is buying a bunch of stuff. These syndication groups are buying stuff up, and they're always looking for a return for their investors. So alternatively, on a master service agreement, you may not have recurring revenue, but you have reoccurring opportunities. So you would set them up for an annual inspection or maybe a biannual inspection to go out there and look at 1 or 2 of the buildings, right? So it'd be like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Property Manager, we're coming out to do our annual inspection for you guys. What buildings do you want us to inspect? We want to look at your worst ones so that we can put a proposal together to take care of those. If they're not willing to take care of their worst buildings, what makes you think they're going to take care of their, any of the other ones? That strategy basically just ensures, like I said, whether someone wants to pay proactively for a service agreement now or not, that we still get in front of them and we still stay there, packaged as their go-to roofer. And so that's the very simplified version of a 2-tiered service offering, and having a paid model plus a free option to basically recycle those leads. And so I'm going to tell you guys how I get on roofs and how I think about marketing when it comes to commercial roofing business. But I always start with a disclaimer that, because there's always somebody that wants to fight with me in the audience and say that, I've grown my business for the last 10 or 15 years and we've never advertised, and we've grown through word of mouth and we just do good work, so everyone comes to us. And I'm like, all right, cool. There's a lot of noise in the marketing space, right? Everyone has the newest, best, biggest, sexiest way to acquire leads. I had to think, how can I organize all these different ways to generate leads into 4 main buckets so that I could even fathom what people are trying to sell? And so the 4 ways that you can get on roofs is you can pursue opportunities, you can attract opportunities, you can run paid advertising, or you can do what's called earn and return, and I'll define those for you. So when you attract opportunities, that's doing things like SEO. When you run paid advertising, that's things like Google ads or Google LSA, local service ads, or Meta ads, like Facebook ads, YouTube ads, things of that sort. It also would include things like pay-per-lead services. So is there anyone here that's running Angie's or what used to be Home Advisor or anything like that? Okay. Pursuit marketing is the old school grassroots outbound marketing. So making the calls, knocking the door, sending the LinkedIn messages, sending the outreach via email, things of that sort. And earn and return is earning the recurring revenue, the reoccurring opportunities, and the referrals from either referral partners or past clients. The thing is there anyone here that feels like they might be this guy on the slide, where they're like, there's so much noise and I've spent so much money on marketing and I have no idea which direction to run this year? I knew there was at least one. No, yeah, exactly. Be honest. Is there anyone else that feels like they might be this guy? Okay, thank you. And what I'll tell you is, like, if you look at the big boys of our industry, the guys with the B's, the $1 billion revenues next to their name, it's quite interesting. So when I started looking at the Centimarks, the Tectas, the Greenwood Industries online footprint, relative to the money those guys are making, or the money that they're doing in revenue, they don't really have huge footholds online, which is kind of interesting. So if the guys that have the largest market share in the entire country aren't spending money, I'm sure they're spending money, but not relative to their size. They're not spending money on SEO. They're not, having, guys from their company dancing on TikTok or making content on social media. It's like, okay, well, that's interesting. Why would they not be doing that? The other thing is I really do love paid advertising. I think that Facebook ads, Google LSA, I think all of those things are amazing. But unless you have a very structured sales conversion process, like a very structured sales process that your team follows, then I actually don't push people into paid advertising very often. I think right now we have 56 active clients across the country, maybe pushing 60. And there's like 2 guys that I feel comfortable with having run paid advertising out of that entire group. So if that gives you guys any sort of an idea. So that leaves us with, we're no longer in the land of indecision, having 4 different opportunities, which is actually pretty good. It's like, we can pursue leads with business development. Is there anyone here that has business development reps that goes out and either makes phone calls, walks into buildings? Okay, sick. Bunch of you guys. Business development, which is pursuit marketing, and earn and return, right? Which is leveraging your service department to do the things I just shared with you a couple slides back. But it's like the old chicken or the egg. Which one do I focus on? Do I focus on, going out and getting new customers? Or do I focus on, referral partners and going back to all of our old clients? And I think it's pretty simple. Like, if you have commercial clients that you have worked for in the past, right? You should just start by making them worth more money. You already have, if you've laid a roof or you've repaired a leak or you've created some sort of relationship with these people, you've got the relationship. You should circle back to those clients. And I've got a quick strategy if you guys want to check it out. Very simple, 3-step process. You can reconnect with these past clients, and I'll show you exactly how to do that here in just a moment. You can reassess their current roofing condition and then pinpoint any new opportunities and sell them into service. So is there anyone here that has sold a roof, a repair, or a restoration and not put that person on a service agreement because maybe you weren't offering it yet? Okay, cool. This is for all of you guys. All right, so the first thing is to recognize that we are going to set an appointment with some of those people that you've done those projects for, but it's not just a revisit, right? We're going to frame it as like, hey, we're coming back out to look at our old work, but we're going to do what we said by looking at the work, and then we're also going to try and expand the scope. We're going to look at other things. Like, if it was a repair, we're going to look at the repair and make sure it's still good, but then we're also going to expand the scope by looking at the rest of the roof, okay? And if it's a replacement, then cool, that's great. You just look at all of the details that you would look at during an inspection, and you would write anything up, any warranty work that needs, like you would cover that under the warranty, which is what you agreed to anyways, but you would also look for wear and tear things. And so what I want to share with you guys is that when I teach this or when I implement this into a company, I often get pushback from the sales reps because they're like, I already sold these people a warranty. How am I going to go? They're going to think I'm trying to like double dip on them or something. And so what I'll tell you is that your warranty covers them from bad materials and flaws in the installation process. It does not offer the same coverage or protection that an actual service agreement does. It's kind of like the analogy I shared with you guys earlier. It's like, we just bought a brand new truck last year. I bought the creme de la creme of the warranties, the bumper to bumper warranty, but we also just put a new windshield in and swapped the wiper blades and rotated the tires, and that warranty didn't cover that. So that's an analogy that you can actually utilize with, you can use that to explain that to a building owner. And so to generate the appointments, it's really simple. Most of us here have a database or a CRM that we can pull prior client data from. And these are the points of data that I would have my team pull. Real simple. Their name, their contact information, what was the type of job so we know what we're going to look at, and what year was the work performed. Because the next step is that starting with the oldest customer data, you just want to send them a semi-customized email. And I'm actually going to give you guys my template and you can take it and make it better or use it as is. But the email should contain a link, and it should also frame it as like, hey, we're not asking to come out here. We're telling you we're coming out to look at our old work. Okay, so it's the easiest way to set an appointment out of anything I've ever done. And so if you guys want the email template, feel free to just go ahead and scan that. For anyone that doesn't book within a couple days of that initial email, it's simple. We actually just make a phone call, and it's not rocket science what we say. Like I'll literally say, hey Jeff, it's Cody. I sent you an email a couple days ago. Did you get it? No? Okay, cool. Well, hey, you remember the work we did out there? Or are you still handling the roof, or is that somebody else's headache? Cool. Well, we need to come out and take a look at that, and we need to have somebody sign off that we were on site. Is that you, or who do I need to have sign off? Because we want somebody there, whoever is responsible for the roof, to be there to be able to have those conversations, obviously. This is the process all laid out in a workflow for you guys. So if you want to take a picture of this, that's cool. Like I said, I'll also share these slides with you guys, but this is the earn and return, how to go back to old clients that you never put on a service agreement, and how to do it. But if you don't have previous commercial clients, is there anyone here that has a residential company that might just be segueing into commercial? If you don't have previous commercial clients, this one's for you guys. So all of these methods work, but they all have a cost, right? I told you guys earlier which one I would actually start with. So again, I would not begin here if this was me. And if you have no previous commercial clients, you should start with pursuing prospects. But not all leads, not all prospects are created equal, right? We've got two different buckets, okay? So we have people that know we exist, and we have people that don't know we exist. Step by step, I'm gonna give you guys the process, how to track the process, and then the most important piece, which is just measuring the inputs, okay? And so this is the process for reaching out to warm and cold prospects when you guys are looking for new business. These leads, you can acquire list from list brokers. You can acquire list from doing the heavy lifting yourself. We have a ton of guys in our world that literally go to Google Maps, they hunt for ugly roofs, they make a list or a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, and they put that in their CRM. And that's who their guys reach out to. Like, it's not rocket science. And so it should be tracked in a CRM, but it also shouldn't stop you, because I also nabbed this from one of our clients' spreadsheets. And so they had it set up as their process, right? The name of the person they're reaching out to, and then what they plan on doing to reach out to this person. They're going to give them a phone call and say, hey, I was looking at some, overviews of some roofs in your local area. We have some projects near you guys, and I noticed X, Y, and Z on your roof, right? You're the roof next to the big blue building, right? Yep, cool. Okay, well, you've got some issues going on. Can I come out and take a look at it? Or could I drop by and give you some information? And then they're sending some follow-up emails. That's the process. That's how you track where people are at in a process. Something as simple as setting that up in a CRM like Go High Level, or some of you guys, I think I was talking to some of you guys that have HubSpot. Like I said, if you don't have either one of those, or you don't have a marketing and sales CRM, then you would just use a spreadsheet. So the third and last thing I'll share with you guys here is that most people track outcomes, right? They look back and they say, hey, we did or did not hit our sales goal, but they're not looking at the leading indicators of like, what is the stuff that they're actually doing to get to those results? My personal opinion is because most people would be embarrassed by the inputs that they're actually not doing to get to those results. If I asked you, what were your sales last year? Most people could probably tell me. But if I said, how many outreaches did your business development team do last year? Most people have no idea. I can tell you my business development team last year did 11,374 or 474 outreaches last year. And from that, I can tell you the conversion of every single thing, from our cold calling, from our canvassing, from our email, from our LinkedIn. And we were able to see if we send this many messages, we then get this many clients, right? And so when you know that, it makes you more scalable and you're able to build a business development team. So this is a screenshot of one of our clients' spreadsheets, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what that might look like, right? You're just tracking the conversions of every process. And now the last part, and this is my favorite piece of everything that I'm sharing with you guys today. I feel like everyone thinks they have a lead problem, and the reality is they typically have a conversion problem. They have a sales conversion problem, and their sales process looks like this. They have a leaky bucket of people falling through cracks and crevices because they're treating every lead the same way. They're rushing into, they think when they get a call for a lead that their job is to go give a quote. But your job is to not give a quote. I think your job is to do two things. I think your job is to understand their problem at a deep level. Like, yes, they have a leak, but what is the emotional issue or the logical issue as to why they're calling you out there? Is it causing issues for their tenants? Is it leaking on a piece of machinery? Is it doing something that is causing them pain? Your job is not to go out there and just give a quote. You got to understand the problem at a deep level, and you've got to figure out what they're trying, what are they after? What is their solution? And so the last thing I see is they let leads slip through the cracks because they don't have a system for follow-up or a way to recycle their leads. And just to be clear with you guys, that is why we have a 2-tiered service program, because you have to have a way for the people that are not buying today to be able to buy later from you, okay? Best roofing businesses never let a lead go to waste. They're basically doing the exact opposite of what I just shared with you guys. That's my logo, the top right-hand corner. What does that look like to you guys? Someone shout it out. A ladder, cool. My niece said it looked like a grilled cheese that was being pulled apart, so take that, Allison. Yeah, cool. So this is my sales framework, guys. We call it the ladder sales framework, and it's very, very simple. Ladder is the acronym, not grilled cheese. Laying foundations means building rapport. There's nothing that bugs me worse than shitty rapport building. I can't stand when guys, like when my sales reps showed up trying to talk to people about sports or their kids or their vehicles or like whatever random stuff that they saw on their desk. I'm like, dude, that's so like sales training from the 80s that like we've got to get past that. So professional rapport building, I'll share some of the questions that I utilize here in just a moment. Assessing their past and current situation, we've got to figure out what are they experiencing now, what are they after, and what is that gap that we need to bridge. Okay, what do we need to deliver to understand their, like I said earlier, understand their problem better than the next guy, which also was covered in what I just said, or the next letter, desired outcome. What is their desired outcome was what I just said, okay? After that, then we can diagnose the roof and we can put estimates together, we can put our proposals together, we can give them our recommendations and we can close the deal, okay? This is my sales process and I'm gonna break it down for you guys here in like 2 or 3 slides. You are obviously there if you can't read the slide. And this is where we learn about the situation, teach them how to think. And the way that we do that is the first 3 steps of the ladder sales framework, okay? And it's just a question-based framework where we can become the doctor to be able to prescribe what they actually need. And I will not read you guys all of these questions off of here, but I will read you the bolded questions at the very bottom because those are the most important. How do you typically handle maintenance and projects for the property? What is the typical process for approving projects like this? Are there specific steps we need to follow? And who else besides yourself is involved in making the decisions about the property maintenance or projects? That's part of laying the foundations for the relationship, right? Starting to come off to them as the professional, being able to assert ourselves in there and let them know that we're here to solve a problem for them. We also then want to start to understand the situation. So what's your biggest frustration with the current state of the roof? How have these roofing issues affected your tenants or business operations? Like I said, digging a little bit deeper than the surface level of like, yeah, we have a leak. And then how much time and effort does your team actually spend dealing with roof-related problems? To figure out what they're going after or what their desired goal is, it's like, are you guys looking for a quick fix here? Or are you looking to make this roof last as long as possible? What's your top priority when it comes to roofing? Durability? You guys just trying to stay dry? You know, appearance, energy efficiency, and so on and so forth. In a perfect scenario, what's the timeline look like for this roofing project? After we understand where they're at and where they're trying to go, we also have to teach them how to think. We cannot make people make decisions, but we can teach them how to think to make the decisions that we want. So some word tracks, and I'm actually going to read these verbatim for you guys because I don't want to, there's very important pieces in here that I don't want to miss. And so I just want to share with you guys how I teach a property manager or how I teach a building owner to think about their building from from the perspective that their roof is on a life cycle. So one of the most important things to understand about your roof is not that it's just a set it and forget it part of your building. Just like a car requires regular oil changes, tire rotations, occasional replacements for things like wiper blades or light bulbs to stay functional and reliable, your roof has its own set of components that need ongoing care. The roof membrane itself, typically, this is the same thing I taught you guys earlier, right? And so I'm teaching you guys so you can go teach the building owners and the property managers of the world. Has a life cycle of about 25 years, but that's just the membrane. There's other elements like flashing sealants, blah, 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 that all play critical roles in protecting the building. If those components aren't maintained, they fail prematurely, causing damage to the membrane, everything under it, and it shortens the life of the roof overall. Our goal is just to help you nurture the roof along in its life cycle, addressing the small issues before they can become major and expensive problems. Our ultimate goal is to stretch your roof as long as possible to keep that roof money in your pocket as long as possible. And then again, this is just another analogy for the comparing it to the automotive world. Most roofers don't understand the theory of extending the life of a roof. Like, could I get a show of hands? Did anyone learn anything in this presentation today? Cool. So actually, can you guys keep your hands up? If you learned something today and you've been in roofing for longer than 5 years, keep your hand up. 10 years? Cool. So if you guys are still learning things here from this, how could we expect a building owner or a property manager or somebody else to know? Like, we can't. So we have to communicate this stuff. We have to educate them. We have to teach them how to think. All right. And so, like I said earlier, that was the discovery portion of the sales process. I'm just going to walk you guys through the rest of this. And it's just essentially a recap of everything we've talked about. Okay. When we're at the point where we have diagnosed the decision maker and the decision making process, we've asked all the questions, we've taught them what we want, how we want them to think. The next piece of the puzzle is diagnosing the actual roof. And so when we're looking at the roof, what I had my sales guys do, because we were not huge on the insurance restoration side of things in the commercial world, but if we did a commercial claim, I liked it served up to me, with a platter and somebody standing here waving me with a big, grapes on a plate and a big leaf, blowing that warm wind in my face. In order to do that, I would have my guys look and say, is this a home run? Can we, assuming that their policy covers normal insurance claims, everything that would be covered in like a normal fire policy, do we have an insurance claim here? Yes or no? And my guys would make a decision on the roof. Is this worth pursuing as an insurance claim? Yes or no? Most of the time, 95% of the time, the answer was no. And if it becomes no, then that's fine. We transition to this. And we say, there's no insurance claim here. Where's this roof at on the life cycle? Is it an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F? And the grades are your pathway to monetization, which brings us to this. So if the answer is no to an insurance claim, we ask ourselves, does this roof need a restoration or does it need to be replaced? And if the answer is yes, cool. That's the route we go, right? We would follow it on out to the right. But if the answer is no, and the roof is an A, a B, or a C, then we basically build quotes for whatever the deferred maintenance is, the repairs that need to be done, and we piggyback it with a preventative maintenance agreement. It goes without saying, if we do a restoration or a replacement or an insurance claim, we're also putting service agreements piggyback to that. But in the situation, you'll notice that if the answer is no, and they do not sign the agreement for our repairs and our preventative maintenance agreement, I told you guys earlier, we want to recycle our leads. So you'll notice that we transition to selling and pitching the MSA, okay, the master service agreement. It's like, look, Mr. or Mrs. Property Manager, it looks like this thing's not moving. And this is, after a couple weeks of working it, if it's not going anywhere, it's like, hey, look, I don't want you guys to fall through the cracks and crevices. I've got a lot of people that I'm serving. So what I'm going to do as a service for you guys, if we can push this along and get this approved, that's great. But I want to make sure you guys don't get forgotten about, even if your corporate suite or your board drops the ball. So I'm going to put you on this master service agreement. Doesn't cost you anything, but we're going to put you on this master service agreement so that we can come back out here in 6 months or 6 to 12 months and reassess the property, reassess your issues, and keep this thing moving along. Does that sound good? The answer is usually yes. All right. And then from there, we would just recycle it back to the on-site inspection. And 6 to 12 months later, we're revisiting that. So to put a bow on this thing, if you guys are taking notes, what I talked about today was how proactive service, having the two-tiered service model creates business growth, why we actually do it, because we want a compounding business versus a transactional model. We want the 96 over the 4%. We want more profit per client so we can dominate our market and we can, crush the souls of all our competitors in our market. And then we want to, the way we do that is through, like I said, the two-tiered service model, having a process, tracking the process, and measuring our inputs for all of the pursuit marketing that we're doing, and then following a sales process. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you, guys.